I never thought I'd be in a situation like this. Honestly, I always thought I was too smart for it. But here I am, sitting alone in my living room, trying to wrap my mind around what happened. My name's Kelly. I'm 30 years old, and I really need to just get this off my chest. How it all started last month when my boss, and who seems to know all the right people, invited me to a concert. Not just any concert, though, a VIP experience with backstage passes and everything. Obviously, I was excited. It's the kind of thing most people could only dream about. And I was getting this chance because of my work. I mean, I deserve it, right? I work hard and I've earned some fun, some luxury, right anyway. It told my husband Jeff about the invitation, and he was kind of indifferent. Always plays it cool. But I could tell something was off. He wasn't excited like I. Wash didn't even seem thrilled. I was getting this opportunity still. I didn't think much of it. He's always been a bit of a homebody, doesn't like going out much unless it's to the bar with his buddies or whatever his loss, honestly. But here's where it gets interesting. Jeff wasn't exactly supportive, but Ed didn't put up a fight. Either he just kind of shrugged it off and said, yeah, go if you want, that was acting like he didn't care, and that irritated me a little. I wasn't expecting a parade or anything, but a little more enthusiasm would have been nice. He could have at least pretended he was happy for him. Instead, he acted like I was going to a dentist appointment, so I went to the concert. I was gunned the whole night, and I'll admit I had a blast. I was living it up in that VIP section, getting free drinks, chatting with people who actually mattered in this world. And I'm not even going to lie, it felt good. I mean, sure, Jeff was home with the kids, but I wasn't thinking about him. I was too busy being treated like a queen by everyone else. By the time I got home, it was around 2 a.m. I was a little tipsy, maybe a little too tipsy, but who cares, right? I'd had a great time, but when I walked in the door, Jeff was sitting on the couch. I figured he'd be asleep by now, but nope, he was wide awake, just sitting there, looking at me with this look. I can't even describe, I don't know, almost disappointed. He didn't say anything right away. He just stared at me, and I was just standing there, in my concert gear, still holding on to the high of the night. It should have felt guilty. He had been home with the kids while I was out partying, but I didn't. I wasn't even thinking about that. At the time, all I could think about was how amazing the night had been and how stupid Jeff was acting. I could have at least asked me how it went right, but instead of how was the concert or did you have fun, he handed me an envelope, a letter. I looked at them confused. What's this? I asked. I asked already, knowing it wasn't good. He wasn't the type to hand him a letter, especially at 2. In the morning, you'll see, has said, his voice flat, like he wasn't even trying to care anymore. I opened the letter. It wasn't long, just a few sentences, but it hit me like a ton of bricks. The letter was a note from Jeff. And it was about how we didn't feel appreciated anymore, how we felt like he was just a background character in my life, and how I'd been getting more and more distant. I could feel the guilt starting to creep in, but once it didn't stick. I remember reading it and thinking, this is stupid. I mean, I had just come off this high from the concert, and now where I was standing, in front of my husband, who was acting all dramatic over a letter, I didn't know how to respond. I didn't even think it needed to respond. Why was he making such a big deal out of nothing? I don't get it. I said, putting the letter down, this is about Megan to a concert. Maybe he said, not looking at me. Maybe it's about how you never put me first anymore. You always go out, always have fun, but I'm just stuck here with the kids. It's like, I don't even matter. I rolled my eyes. Oh, come on, Jeffy, you're acting like I never do anything for you. I work, I take care of the house, and now you're mad because we Nento a concerta work thing, by the way, hadn't say anything for a second. Then he finally looked me dead in the eyes. You've been doing this a lot lately. Going out not caring about what's going on at home, maybe? I'm just tired of pretending like it doesn't bother me. The words stung a little, but I couldn't show it. I wasn't wrong. I deserved that night out, so why was he making it about something else? Why couldn't they just let me have fun? I just shook my head. Look, Jeff. I don't know what you're trying to say, but I'm not going to sit there and feel bad for going to a conch. No, I'm not going to apologize for having a good time. He stood up like he was done with this conversation and walked into the other room. I could hear him sighing from the next room. And I felt this little stub off frustration. Why is he making me feel guilty for something I didn't even doubt wrong? But I didn't care, not then. I was too busy thinking about the concert, about everything I'd missed out on. Jeff could be made if he wanted, but this was my life, my opportunity. So I let them sulk in the next room. I didn't even bother trying to talk to him anymore. What was the point anyway? That's woo. And the night ended, and looking back, maybe there were a few signs that I messed up, but I didn't really see it that way. At the time, I was having fun, and that's all that mattered to me. So yeah, that's where we're right now. And I'm just getting started. The next day, things weren't any better. Jeff was still distant, still moody, and I honestly had no idea what to do about it. The wasn't talking to me, wasn't looking at me the same way. It was like he was giving me the silent treatment, but I wasn't about to chase him down. I had things to do. and I sure as shell wasn't going to let this whole thing me. Sup me vibe, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized he wasn't just mad. About the concert, it was something deeper. I'd been feeling like they'd been off between us for a while now, but I didn't think much of it, maybe because I didn't want it. Maybe because I was too busy with my own life to care. He'd been distant, sure, but I figured he'd get over it. Men were like that, right? They got moody and needed their space, and then they'd come around. That's how it always worked. But by the time the kids were in bed that night, I couldn't ignore it anymore. Jeff was sitting there like he'd been waiting for me to finally confront him. I wasn't ready to apologize, but I also wasn't about to let them think he could hold this over my head forever, so I sat down across from him, trying to act calm, but it was hard. I could feel the tension in the room. All right, what's really going on? Jeff, I asked, crossing my arms. I wasn't going to beg for his attention, but at this point I was done with the cold shoulder. He didn't even look at me first. They just kept staring at the TV like I wasn't even there, and that pissed me off more than anything. Why was he acting like I was the problem? Like I wasn't the one who had been stuck at home with two kids while he was out doing whatever he wanted. I don't know. Kelly, his head finally turning his eyes to me. Maybe I'm just tired of being ignored. Tired of being your afterthought. I laughed, but it wasn't funny. It was that kind of laugh that comes from frustration, no amusement. Ignored, you've got to be kidding me. I'm busting my ass every day at work, taking care of the house, making sure the kids are all right. And you're sitting here acting like I don't do enough. I don't even know what you want from me at this point. I want you to actually care about what's happening here. He shot back, voice rising a little. I want you to notice how distant we've become. I want you to look at me like I'm still your husband, not just the guy who pays the bills and takes care of things while you're out having fun. His words hit harder than I expected, but I wasn't about to let them see that, oh son, now I'm the bad guy, is napped because I went to a concert, because I had done night off fun without you. God, Jeff, get over it. It was one night. I'm not the one who's been sitting here sulking about it for days. She threw his hand soup in the air like he couldn't believe what he was hearing. It's not about the damn concert. Kelly, I. Just about everything else you think. I don't notice how you've been pulling away. You think I don't see how much you've been spending without thinking how many times do I have to say something before it finally clicks with you. I blinked. Spending what was she talking about? I had some credit card debt, sure. But who didn't? I wasn't a financial genius, but it wasn't like I was blowing our entire savings. It was just the little things, the stuff I'd like to buy for myself when I was feeling down. Was that really such a big deal? I don't know. Maybe you're just making a bigger deal out of the isthenitis. As I trying to brush it off, I've got it under control. I always do. Do you? Hest his voice faced with disbelief. Because every time I check, there's another charge on our account for something. You don't need another splurge that we can't afford. You're always getting things for you. But what about the kids? What about us? His words hit me harder than the guilt I had tried to ignore. But event then, I didn't fully grasp it. I just couldn't see what the problem was. I wasn't out there spending money like some kind of addict or anything. I deserved nice things she didn't. Titty, you know what? Jeff is Ed, standing up. You really don't get it. I work hard and I deserve a little something for myself once in a while. If you don't like how I spend my money, then maybe you should have been more involved with the bills, but don't make me feel bad for taking care of myself. You're the one who sits here acting all miserable like I'm supposed to fix everything for you. His face twisted in anger. I'm not asking you to fix everything. I'm just asking for a little effort, a little attention, but maybe that's too much to ask. I could feel the wall between us getting thicker by the end. It was like we were both just talking past each other, neither of us willing to really listen. And then, just when I thought things couldn't get worse, as with the letter, the one I had thrown on the table the night before, it wasn't just a simple note. It was a list of everything I felt. I had been neglecting the money, the time, the way I acted like I was too busy for him, and as I looked at it, I started to realize of something. It wasn't just the concert. It wasn't just the spending. It was everything, the way I'd been pushing him away without even realizing it. But of course, I wasn't going to admit that to him, not yet. You're really going to make me feel guilty for this? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. You're really going to act like I'm the one who's wrong? Here? He looked at me, hurt, written all over his face. But I didn't care. I couldn't admit it. Not then, the argument continued, but it wasn't getting any better. I could feel the distance growing between us, and I wasn't sure how much more I could take of this, but I also wasn't ready to back down. No, the days that followed felt like a blur of tension. Jeff barely said anything to me, and I barely said anything to him. It was like we were two strangers coexisting in the same house, but not really. There I spent more time at work, and when I was home, I buried myself in the kids' activities, or whatever I could do to avoid dealing with him. The silence was suffocating, but neither of us knew how to break it. I kept thinking about that letter. The things she wrote in there had stuck with me more than I wanted to admit. He'd laid it out so clearly, everything I was doing wrong, but and now I refused to believe it was all my faulty. I had my moments of regret, but I wasn't about to let him win this one. I wasn't going to admit I'd been pushing him away, because that would mean I'd have to take responsibility for things that had gone wrong, and I wasn't ready to do that. I couldn't stop thinking about the concert, though. He was right. In some ways, I'd been so excited to have a night just for myself. I'd thought it's just a night out, but now I couldn't help but feel like it had been more than that. Maybe it wasn't about the concert at all. Maybe it was about me, wanting to escape, wanting something else, anything other than this life I had. But the worst part, I had no idea how to fix any of it. I didn't know where to start or if. I wanted to fix it. The kids were fine. They didn't care if we fought or not. They just wanted their dinner and their bedtime stories. But Jeff, he was different, who wanted something from me I wasn't sure. I was ready to give. The weekend came and Jeff finally spoke to me again, but this time it wasn't about, it was about the money. I need you to take a look at this, he said, sliding a pile of bills in front of me. The kitchen table, his eyes were tired, and there was something almost defeated in his voice. We're sinking. Kelly, you've got to stop ignoring it. I didn't even look at the bills at first. Instead, I stared at them. I could tell how frustrated he was, how much he was holding back. It was he had been carrying this weight alone 4 months, and I hadn't noticed. I told you I've got it under control. I said, brushing off the problem. I'm doing what I can. But even as I said it, I knew it wasn't true. I knew it was a lie. I wasn't managing things. I was barely keeping my head above water, but admitting it felt like defeat, and I wasn't ready to admit defeat. Note in front of him. Not after everything you think. I'm stupid. Hesked, his voice cracking with frustration. You think I can't see what's happening. You've been spending money like we're made of. We can't keep going like this. Kelly is there, staring at them, and for the first time in a long time, I felt the weight of the reality of what I'd been doing, but I didn't say anything. Instead, I just got up and left the room. I couldn't face it. I couldn't face him for the rest of the day. We didn't talk. It felt like the space between us was growing wider, like we were on different planets. I couldn't figure out if I was angry at them for calling me out or if I was just embarrassed for letting things got this fair their way. I wasn't ready to admit what I'd done. But then that night, something shifted. I was sitting on the couch scrolling through my phone when the kids finally went to the house. Was quiet, too quiet. Jeff was sitting in the chair across from me, his eyes on me, but his expression unreadable. I couldn't take the silence anymore. You think. I don't know how bad things are. I said, my voice is shaking just a little. I know, but I don't know what you want from me. What do you want me to do? Hadn't answer right away. Instead, he just stared at me, his face full of frustration and hurt. I want you to stop pretending like everything's fine. I want you to actually care about what's happening to us. Because right now it feels like you don't hit me harder than anything else. He had said, I had been pretending like everything was okay, pretending like I didn't see the cracks. Faux, arming, but I had been so wrapped up in my own little world, in my own selfish impulses, that I hadn't noticed how bad it had gotten, and maybe for the first time, I felt a little guilty, but not enough to really admit I was wrong. Not yet, I'm sorry. Okay, I said, my voice barely above a whisper, but I don't know what else to do. I don't know how to fix this. He's just nodded, looking defeated. I don't know whether Kelly, but we can't keep going like this. I could feel the weight of his words, but I still wasn't ready to face the truth. Not yet, maybe later, but not now. I stood up and walked away from him. I didn't want to deal with it. I didn't want to face the consequences of my actions, not yet, but somewhere deep down I knew I had to, so I kept pretending to avoiding the inevitable because that's what I did best. But how long could I keep pretending? That was the question. I didn't answer. The days following that tense conversation felt like they dragged on, and the more I tried to push the guilt aside, the heavier it became. I would catch myself staring at Jeff, wondering if he could ever truly forgive me for everything I'd done. But at the same time, I wasn't ready to fully face it. I kept thinking that if I just kept going, kept pretending like everything was fine, maybe it would fix itself. But deep down, I didn't. It wouldn't. It never did. Jeff kept his distance after that. He wasn't rude, but there was this coldness in his eyes that I couldn't ignore. It was like he was a different person, someone who had learned to guard his emotions around me. I I tried to act normal, tried to make small talk, but the silence between us felt the avier than I ever had before, and honestly, I didn't know what to say anymore. I'd pushed him so far, and I wasn't sure if he could come back from that. It was 8 weeks later when I realized just how far apart we'd grown. It was a Saturday, and I was rushing around the house trying to get the kids ready for a birthday party when Jeff walked into the kitchen. His expression was unreadable, but I could tell something was different. The air between us felt like it was charged with something. I couldn't quite put my finger on. I need to talk to you about something, he said quietly, looking at me with those same tired eyes. I stopped what I was doing and gave him a nervous smile, trying to act casual. What's up? He citated before sitting down at the kitchen table. I've been thinking a lot about everything about what's been happening with us with you. I could feel the knot in my stomach tightening. He was about to bring up the concert again, or the money, or both. And no matter what, I knew I wasn't going to like where this conversation was going. I know things haven't been perfect. I said, trying to get ahead of the conversation, but we'll figure it out. We always do, he shook his head slowly. I don't know if we will this time, if Rose. What do you mean? I've been thinking about everything you did, he said, his voice low but steady. The concert, the way you've been spending money, the way you act like none of this matters. It's not just about the little things anymore. Kelly, it's about the way you've treated me, the way you've treated us. I felt a lump form in my throat, but I didn't speak. I wasn't ready to admit anything, not yet. I've tried to forgive you. Jeff continued, his voice is still calm but sharp with emotion, but I don't think I cannot completely. You've crossed a line, and it's hard to go. Back from that, it hit me harder then. It thought it would. I hadn't realized how much I was holding on to the idea that things could go back to the way they were, that somehow we'd forget everything I had done, but Jeff had always been the kind of person who couldn't just forget, and no matter how much it tried to pretend, he wasn't going to let me off the hook this time. I'm sorry, I said, but even as the words left my mouth, I could feel them ring hollow. It wasn't the apology he wanted to hear. He wasn't looking for my empty words. I don't need your apology right now, he replied, his gaze is steady and unflinching. What I need is for you to see what you've done, to see how much damage you've caused. You think I don't know that you've been pretending like everything's fine, like none of this matters, but as Kelly, it really does. I stared at them, the weight of his words sinking, and this wasn't just about a concert or the money or event the distance between us. It was about the fact that I didn't feel like he could trust me anymore, and no matter how much I wanted to fix it, I couldn't take back the things I'd done. I didn't meant to hurt you, I said quietly, finally feeling the sting of my own selfishness, but I knew it wasn't enough. It never would be. I know you didn't, Jeff said, his voice is softening, but it doesn't change the fact that you did, and I don't think I can keep pretending like nothing's wrong, not anymore. And that was the truth. He wasn't going to forget what I'd done. He wasn't going to me off the hook with a few empty apologies and promises to do better. I had crossed a line, and no matter how much it tried to justify my actions, wasn't going to fix the damage. That night, I lay in bed next to him, staring at the ceiling, and I finally let myself feel the weight of it all, the regret, the guilt, the realization that I had pushed him too far. I hadn't been the wife he deserved, and no matter how much I wanted to make things right, I knew it wasn't going to be easy. I thought about how everything had started, how I'd gotten caught up in my own impulsiveness, my own need for escape, and how it had spiraled into something bigger than ever imagined. I had taken him for granted, and now I was facing the consequences. The next morning, when the kids were off to their activities, Jeff and I sat down together. It was quieter now, and the tent show was still thick between us, but for the first time in weeks we spoke openly. I wasn't ready to completely admit everything I had done, but I knew I couldn't keep pretending like nothing was wrong, not anymore. I don't know if we can fix this, I said, my voice trembling, but I'll try. I'm not perfect, Jeff, but I want to make it right. He looked at me for a second. I saw a flicker of something in his eyes. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but maybe it was the first step. Maybe it wasn't too late. I don't know if we can either, he said softly, but I'm willing to try as long as you are, and maybe that's the hardest part of all, realizing that it's not enough to just say, you're sorry. You have to prove it. And that's something I wasn't sure I could do. But I was going to try, even if it meant taking a long, hard look at myself and figuring out how to fix everything I'd broken. If this confession kept you hooked, make sure to subscribe, like, and share. We share powerful true stories every day that explore the complex realities of life.